It's a deep cleansing treatment which uses steam and ultraviolet rays to get oxygen into the open pores of the skin.
Pain, suffering, and even death. Some beauty trends came with a horrifying price. Throughout history, pursuing perfection has pushed people to shocking extremes, even at the cost of their health and lives. From poisonous cosmetics to painful body modifications, some trends were as deadly as they were fashionable. How far would you go for beauty? Would you risk pain, deformity, or even death just to fit society's standards? Join us on this special episode as we reveal history's 8 deadliest beauty trends. Number 8. Footbinding. Footbinding was a painful practice in ancient China, where young girls' feet were broken and tightly wrapped to make them smaller. This process, which lasted for centuries, was not only excruciating, but also left many women with permanent disabilities, making it difficult for them to walk. The practice, which created lotus feet, was most common between the 10th and 19th centuries. Girls as young as 4 or 6 underwent this procedure because their bones were still soft and easier to reshape. It was usually done in the winter when the feet were numb, making the initial pain slightly more bearable. To begin, the girl's feet were soaked in warm water, herbs, or even animal blood. Then, all her toes except for the big one were broken and tightly wrapped under the sole of her foot, forcing it into a hoof-like shape. Every couple of days, the feet were unwrapped, cleaned, and then re-wrapped even tighter. The pain never stopped, and the longer the process continued, the more the foot shrank. The way feet were bound varied depending on the region. In Sichuan, people practiced cucumber foot, which created a long and slender shape without bending the heel or ankle. The Manchu women did something even less extreme. They wrapped their feet tightly and wore platform shoes called flower bowls to imitate the movement of a woman with bound feet. However, some groups, like the Kucha people, did not bind their feet. Foot binding was more common in northern China than in the south, where mostly wealthy families practiced it. Some women kept their feet bound for life, while others stopped after marriage. However, unbinding the feet didn't provide much relief. It was just as painful as the binding process itself. If foot binding was so painful, why did people do it? One reason was that it became a status symbol. The practice started among wealthy families and later spread to lower classes, but tiny feet remained a sign of nobility. Another reason was beauty. In ancient China, tiny feet were considered the ultimate sign of femininity. Women with tiny feet were seen as delicate and desirable. This belief even found its way into stories. One of the earliest versions of the Cinderella tale, written around 850 CE, tells of a girl with bound feet who loses her tiny shoe. The king searches for the owner, and because her foot is the smallest, she is chosen as his bride. There was also a belief that women with bound feet were better in bed. The painful process forced women to walk with short, mincing steps, which supposedly tightened their inner thighs and pelvic muscles.
Bound feet were certainly very painful for the women.
Some thought this made them more attractive to men. Lastly, some families bound their daughters' feet to control them. Girls with bound feet couldn't run around and play. They had to sit still and focus on tasks like weaving. For working-class families, this was a way to ensure that their daughters remained obedient and stayed home. The first written records of foot binding date back to around 1100 CE, but no one knows precisely when it began. One legend suggests that it started with a dancer named Yao Niang in the 10th century. She wrapped her feet to resemble the crescent moon and danced on a golden lotus for the emperor. Her grace inspired other women to follow suit, and over time, foot binding became deeply embedded in Chinese culture. Women with bound feet wore special silk or cotton shoes that resembled lotus buds. The ideal foot size was just 3 inches, though many women's feet were around 5 inches. If a foot didn't fit into the tiny shoes, tricks were used, like letting the heel stick out and wrapping it tighter. The process itself caused severe injuries. Sometimes, the flesh of the foot was deliberately cut to make it rot away, shrinking the foot even further. Sharp objects were inserted into the bandages, creating wounds that would slowly break down extra flesh. If toenails aren't properly trimmed, they could become ingrown and infected. In some cases, girls had their toenails permanently removed to avoid this risk. Since the bandages cut off circulation, injuries were slow to heal. In severe cases, infections could cause the toes to die and fall off. Strangely, losing toes was a good thing. The foot could be wrapped even tighter. For some girls, the infections turned deadly. It is estimated that around 10% of those who underwent foot binding eventually died from related complications. Those who survived faced a lifetime of suffering. Their bones would repeatedly break and heal, and they were more likely to suffer fractures in their hips and spine due to weakened bone density. The harm caused by foot binding was no secret. As early as the 13th century, Chinese scholars criticized the practice, questioning why little girls were made to suffer. Emperor Kangxi tried to ban it in 1668, but the people refused to stop, and he eventually gave up. Later, 18th century writers, Christian missionaries, and the Taiping rebellion leaders opposed the practice, but it remained widespread. It wasn't until 1912, after the Nationalist Revolution, that foot binding was officially outlawed.
That the government enforced a law banning what it then deemed was a backward practice.
However, many families continued the tradition in secret. It wasn't until the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949 that the practice disappeared on a large scale. By 1999, the last factory making lotus shoes shut down. By the year 2000, only a handful of elderly women with bound feet remained, marking the end of one of history's most painful beauty traditions. Number 7. Plates in lips. The Suri women of Ethiopia are famous for wearing huge plates in their lips as a sign of beauty. The process begins in adolescence when a small cut is made in a girl's lower lip, and a tiny plate is inserted to initiate the stretching. Over time, the plate is gradually replaced with larger ones, causing the lip to expand. Some plates grow as large as a dinner plate, making for an extraordinary sight. Though the process is painful, the women endure it with pride, embracing the transformation as a mark of honor. These plates, crafted from clay or wood, are shaped by hand, with some featuring smooth surfaces and others adorned with intricate patterns or carvings. Beyond aesthetics, the size of a woman's lip plate signifies her status within the tribe. A larger plate earns her tremendous respect, making her more desirable in marriage and increasing the cattle her family may receive as a bride price. However, not all Suri women choose to wear lip plates. Some opt for smaller ones, while others forego the tradition entirely. For those who embrace it, the stretching process can take months or even years as the lip gradually adapts to the increasing size. The stretched skin hangs loosely when the plate is removed, creating a striking and unique appearance. In addition to their lip plates, Suri women take great pride in their overall appearance. They decorate their faces with white paint, creating bold patterns that contrast beautifully with their dark skin. They paint circles, lines, and dots using natural clay, resulting in a fierce yet elegant look. Their heads are shaved bald, a feature they believe enhances their strength. Colorful beaded necklaces and bracelets add to their adornments, while their clothing remains simple, often just a cloth wrapped around their bodies. Lip plates are not always worn. Some women remove them while eating, while others reserve them for special occasions. Festivals, weddings, and ceremonies are moments when the plates are proudly displayed, as the women walk tall, carrying their culture on their lips.
The size of the plate determines a woman's value in cows when she gets married.
However, the tradition is evolving. Younger Suri women are increasingly abandoning lip plates, influenced by the outside world. Some find the practice too painful, while others no longer see it as a necessity for beauty. Western ideals are seeping into the tribe, and many younger women prefer modern styles. Despite this shift, elders remain steadfast in believing that the lip plates are essential to their cultural identity. To them, these plates are not just ornaments. They are symbols of endurance, history, and pride. Number 6. Tapeworms for weight loss.
There are lots of weird ways to lose weight, but only one that the Iowa Department of Public Health says is so dangerous it could kill you.
The tapeworm diet gained popularity in the 19th and early 20th centuries as people believed a tapeworm inside their body would let them eat freely without gaining weight. Advertisements even promoted special pills, claiming they contained tapeworm eggs that would hatch after being swallowed. The idea was simple. Weight loss would happen effortlessly since the tapeworm would absorb part of the food. At a time when thinness, especially for women, was considered ideal, many were willing to take the risk. However, most of these pills were unregulated, and in many cases, they contained no real tapeworm eggs at all. Still, some people did end up with tapeworm infections, either from these pills or contaminated food. Tapeworm infections can cause serious health problems, starting with malnutrition. The parasite feeds on essential nutrients like vitamins and minerals, leading to weakness, hair loss, brittle nails, and poor health over time. Digestive issues are also common, with symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and stomach pain, making daily life uncomfortable. In severe cases, the tapeworm grows too large and blocks the intestines, preventing food from passing through properly. This leads to intense pain and often requires medical treatment. An even greater danger arises when tapeworm larvae reach the brain, a condition called neurocystic This can cause seizures, confusion, and other neurological issues, which, if untreated, can be life-threatening.
This is something that can cause you to have permanent brain damage, perhaps, and it can even kill you in rare instances.
In extreme cases, tapeworm infections can even be fatal, especially if they spread to vital organs. Despite these dangers, some people still believed the benefits outweighed the risks. At the height of the tapeworm diet's popularity, there was little scientific understanding of parasites. Many assumed that after losing weight, they could simply take another pill to remove the tapeworm. Advertisements reinforced this idea, often showing glamorous women who had supposedly slimmed down with the help of tapeworms while ignoring the serious health risks. Society's obsession with thinness also played a role. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, women wore tight corsets to make their waists look more petite and often turned to extreme weight loss methods. The tapeworm diet seemed like an easy shortcut to achieving the desired figure. Getting rid of the tapeworm was far more difficult than swallowing the pill. One of the most bizarre removal methods was invented by Dr. Myers of Sheffield. He designed a device that involved inserting a cylinder filled with food down a person's throat and into their stomach to lure the tapeworm out. This method was not only highly invasive, but also incredibly dangerous. Many people choked to death before the tapeworm could even be removed.
You can get little worms in your brain and your muscle.
As medical knowledge improved, doctors began warning against the dangers of tapeworm infections. Studies proved how harmful they could be, and governments eventually banned the sale of tapeworm pills. By the mid-20th century, the diet mainly had disappeared. However, from time to time, cases would still surface of people intentionally infecting themselves with tapeworms in the hope of losing weight. Even today, despite the well-documented risks, some individuals still attempt this dangerous method. Number 5. The long neck trend. Neck stretching is a unique beauty tradition practiced in Southeast Asia for centuries, dating back to the 11th century. Women, particularly from the Kayan tribe in Myanmar and Thailand.
Cultural analysts estimate that there are now fewer than 100 long-necked women across the whole of Myanmar.
Today, in a remote refugee camp near the Burmese border in northwest Thailand, the Padang women, closely related to the Kayan, continue this tradition. They are instantly recognizable by their elongated necks and bound limbs. As young children, they begin wearing heavy brass coils around their necks. These rings are not merely for decoration, they are a rite of passage, marking their identity within the tribe. The process begins when their bones are still soft and flexible. Over the years, more rings are added, gradually increasing the weight and pressure on their shoulders. Though the coils create the illusion of a stretched neck, the reality is quite different.
While wearing neck rings was once expected of all Kayan women, more and more have started to shun the practice.
The rings do not lengthen the neck itself. Instead, they push down on the collarbones and rib cage, compressing the upper body. This compression forces the shoulders lower, making the neck appear longer. It is a transformation that comes with discomfort. Yet for Padang women, However, there were other beliefs associated with neck stretching. Some people thought that the elongated necks could protect women from tiger attacks. It was believed that the rings made it more difficult for a tiger to grab hold of a woman by her neck, though there is little evidence to support this theory. To outsiders, this practice may seem extreme, even torturous. When the Burmese military took control of the country in 1962, many indigenous groups, including the Padang, were labeled as primitive. The government banned many tribal customs, including the wearing of the wang. Women were forced to abandon their rings, and those who resisted faced punishment. To escape persecution and the ongoing civil war, many Padang families fled across the border into Thailand. Though they found safety, their struggles were far from over. As refugees, they were restricted to designated camps and unable to integrate into Thai society fully.
Maria has never removed the rings, even when cooking, eating, or working.
Their ancient customs, once condemned in Burma, soon became a source of curiosity for foreign visitors. Western tourists flocked to these camps, eager to see the long-neck women in person. The Padang women found themselves in an unusual situation. Outsiders viewed them as a tourist attraction, yet the income from these visits provided their children with food, shelter, and education. Number 4. Poison for perfect skin. In the early 1600s, society's obsession with pale, flawless skin led to some truly disturbing beauty fads. Women who wanted a porcelain-like complexion were encouraged to eat arsenic cookies, small, sweet treats that contained highly toxic arsenic. Advertisements claimed that these cookies could erase blemishes, lighten the skin, and give women a youthful, glowing appearance. Many women, desperate to meet society's beauty standards, ate these cookies daily, completely unaware of the slow poisoning they were experiencing. Arsenic is highly toxic, and consuming even small amounts over time can lead to hair loss, nausea, stomach pain, and organ failure. Women who consumed too much developed pale, almost ghostly skin, which was ironically considered a mark of beauty in that era. One tragic case involved Madame Lefebvre, a French noblewoman known for her flawless complexion. She credited her beauty to arsenic cookies, but began suffering from violent stomach pains, dizziness, and extreme fatigue. Despite her declining health, she continued taking the so-called beauty treatment until she eventually collapsed at a royal gathering. Doctors at the time were baffled, but modern experts now believe her beauty regimen slowly poisoned her. Arsenic poisoning did not just affect those seeking beauty, it also made its way into medicines, household items, and even food preservatives. It took centuries before scientists fully understood the dangers of prolonged arsenic exposure. By the 20th century, the deadly effects of arsenic became widely known, and these beauty treatments finally faded from fashion. Arsenic was not just eaten, it was also applied directly to the skin.
Suffer from arsenic-related problems that are not detected.
In the 17th and 18th centuries, lead and arsenic-based face powders were popular for women to achieve a pale, almost supernatural glow. These powders, often called Venetian ceruse or spirits of Saturn, contained highly toxic metals that were slowly absorbed into the skin. Women who used these powders for years suffered from blackened teeth, rotting gums, and severe facial scarring, ironically making them look far worse than before. Some even lost their hair or developed sores on their faces, which they covered up by applying even more of the poison-laced powder. One famous victim of lead-based makeup was Maria Coventry, Countess of Coventry. Known as one of the most beautiful women of her time, she relied heavily on Venetian ceruse to maintain her flawless, ghostly white complexion. Unfortunately, the constant exposure to lead and arsenic slowly destroyed her health. She suffered from severe headaches, mood swings, and eventually seizures before dying at the age of 27, a tragic victim of her beauty routine. Not all toxic beauty products were created for vanity. Some were designed for revenge. In 17th century Italy, a mysterious and deadly cosmetic, aquatana, gained popularity. Unlike other beauty products, aquatana was not just used to enhance appearance. It was a silent, undetectable weapon. This colorless, odorless poison was often applied to the cheeks and lips, blending perfectly with traditional beauty routines. It contained a mix of arsenic, nightshade, and other lethal toxins. Women who wore aquatana could kill with a single kiss. The poison worked slowly, meaning that the victims did not die immediately. This delayed reaction allowed women to avoid suspicion, making it one of the most effective assassination methods of the time. Aquatana became especially popular among women trapped in abusive marriages, giving them a secret way to free themselves from cruel or unfaithful husbands. One of the most notorious users of Aquatana was Giulia Tofana, an Italian woman who became infamous for selling poisons disguised as beauty products. Her deadly formulas were used by hundreds of women looking for a way to escape their unhappy marriages. Her clients would mix small doses of the poison into their husband's food or drinks, making their deaths appear natural. For years, Giulia avoided capture, but rumors of her deadly cosmetics began to spread. In 1659, a woman panicked and confessed to poisoning her husband with Aquatana,
who would operate for the next 20 years with no one finding out a thing.
This led to an investigation that exposed Giulia's entire network. She was eventually arrested and executed, but her poisons had already claimed hundreds of lives. Another horrifying beauty trend involved belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade. This highly toxic plant was used as an eye drops to make women's pupils dilate, giving them a soft, dreamy, and seductive look. Belladonna eye drops became incredibly popular among wealthy European women, despite its dangerous properties. The bigger the pupils, the more desirable a woman was. However, repeated use of belladonna could cause blurred vision, headaches, and even permanent blindness. One well-known victim of belladonna poisoning was Isabella of Naples, a noblewoman famous for her enchanting gaze. She regularly used belladonna drops, believing they made her eyes look more beautiful. Over time, she developed severe vision problems and eventually lost her sight completely. Even after going blind, she continued using the poison out of habit, unaware of the full extent of the damage. By the 19th and 20th centuries, the medical community began to understand the dangers of these toxic beauty practices. Scientific advancements and medical research exposed the truth behind arsenic cookies, lead-based powders, and deadly cosmetics. As more cases of poison-related deaths and illnesses came to light, governments started to ban the use of toxic substances in beauty products. In 1906, the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed in the United States, marking one of the first steps toward consumer safety in cosmetics. By the mid-20th century, laws were enacted to regulate beauty products, ensuring they were safe for human use. However, the obsession with beauty and youth continues to push people to dangerous extremes even today. While modern cosmetics are far safer, some beauty treatments still pose risks. Before we continue, let's check out today's subscriber's pick. On your screen, the left image shows a heavily edited face with pale skin, glowing yellow eyes, and rotting teeth, while the right features a contorted, deformed figure in a black and white historical photograph. These images aren't real, but considering how extreme some beauty trends have been, it wouldn't be surprising if someone suffered side effects this drastic. What's the most extreme thing you've seen someone do for beauty? Let us know in the comments below. Number 3. Long skulls. The Mangbetu people of the Democratic Republic of Congo were known for their distinctive elongated skulls, a practice called lipambo. This tradition, seen as a mark of beauty and intelligence, was mainly done to infants whose skulls were still soft and could be shaped without harm. Mothers wrapped their babies' heads tightly with cloth or wooden boards to create the desired shape. This process began a few weeks after birth and continued for months or even years. The constant pressure caused the skull to grow upward instead of round, forming a high, narrow head highly valued in Mangbetu society. Women, in particular, were admired for their elongated skulls. They styled their hair in intricate designs to highlight the shape, setting them apart from neighboring tribes. This look symbolized elegance and cultural pride. The Mangbetu were not the only civilization that practiced skull elongation. In Central and South America, the Mayans and Incas also shaped their skulls as a sign of beauty and nobility. The Mayans used wooden boards or pads to flatten and extend the skull, a practice mostly reserved for the elite. A long skull was considered a sign of status, intelligence, and connection to the gods. Many Mayan carvings depict figures with elongated heads, emphasizing its cultural importance. Similarly, the Incas wrapped their infants' heads with cloth to create distinct skull shapes. Some historians believe this was used to distinguish different social groups, making it more than a beauty standard. It may have also represented tribal identity and class ranking. In North America, some Native American tribes, such as the Chinook and Choctaw, also practiced skull shaping. For the Chinook, a longer skull was linked to high status, leadership, and wisdom. The ruling class often had more pronounced skull modifications, reinforcing their authority. Beyond the Americas, archaeologists have found elongated skulls in ancient European cemeteries in France, Germany, and Hungary. These date back to the Huns, a nomadic group that migrated across Europe in the 4th and 5th centuries. Historians believe the Huns introduced the practice from Central Asia, where it had existed for centuries. Some European groups adopted skull shaping, possibly imitating the feared Huns and signaling power and nobility. Although different cultures used various methods to achieve skull elongation, the reasons were often similar. In many societies, it represented beauty, intelligence, or social status. Some saw it as a way to connect with the divine, while others used it to distinguish social classes or ethnic groups. Despite its significance, the practice declined over time. European explorers and colonizers viewed it as strange or unnatural. In some regions, it was banned. As medical knowledge advanced and beauty standards changed, skull elongation gradually disappeared. By the 20th century, it had faded from practice. Today, archaeologists and historians study the remains of elongated skulls to understand their cultural importance and the beliefs of the societies that shaped them.
This, on the other hand, is what we call a natural Paracas skull.
Number 2. Corsets. Corsets have played a major role in shaping fashion trends for centuries, but their most extreme form emerged during the 19th century. Women seeking the perfect hourglass figure wore corsets so tightly laced that their waistlines were dramatically reduced, sometimes reaching as small as 16 to 18 inches. This fashion statement wasn't just about looking elegant, it was a social expectation, especially among upper-class women. A tiny waist was associated with beauty, femininity, and refinement, making corsets an essential part of everyday life. The tightly cinched corset creates a striking silhouette by pushing up the bust and emphasizing wide hips, creating the illusion of an exaggerated hourglass shape.
Come on, tighter! I'm trying. All right, we'll try harder.
However, achieving this extreme look came at a high cost. The intense pressure on the torso made it difficult to move naturally, breathe properly, or eat comfortably. Many women experience frequent dizziness and fainting spells due to restricted lung expansion. In some cases, their ribs became deformed from years of compression, and internal organs, including the liver and stomach, shifted out of their natural positions. This led to chronic digestive issues, muscle weakness, and long-term damage to the spine. Despite these health risks, corsets remained a powerful status symbol. Women endured the discomfort because society expected them to maintain a fashionable figure. Many believed that a well-shaped waist indicated discipline, self-control, and elegance. Mothers often introduced their daughters to corsets at a young age, gradually tightening them until their bodies adapted to the unnatural shape. Some women even slept in their corsets to train their waists to remain as small as possible. Doctors and health reformers of the time began to speak out against extreme tight lacing, warning that it caused serious harm. Some women suffered from broken ribs, severe back pain, and even lung infections due to prolonged restriction. There were also reports of pregnant women experiencing complications because corsets squeezed their abdomens so tightly. However, fashion trends were slow to change, and many dismissed these concerns as exaggerations. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, attitudes toward corsets shifted. As more women entered the workforce and took on active societal roles, they needed clothing that allowed greater movement and comfort. The suffrage movement also played a role in challenging restrictive fashion norms, advocating for practical and healthier clothing choices. Slowly, corsets became less rigid, with designs incorporating flexible boning and looser lacing to allow more freedom. Eventually, the rise of flapper fashion in the 1920s marked the beginning of the end for extreme corsetry. women embraced a more relaxed and natural silhouette, opting for loose-fitting dresses and abandoning the restrictive undergarments of the past. Over time, corsets evolved into modern shapewear, offering support and definition without the health risks. Today, waist trainers and bodysuits provide a similar sculpting effect, but they are made with soft, breathable materials that prioritize comfort. Number 1. Radium makeup. In the early 1900s, when scientific advancements were revolutionizing every aspect of life, the beauty industry embraced what seemed like a miraculous discovery: radium. This glowing element, newly discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie in 1898, quickly became the center of fascination. People believed that radium had health benefits, and companies wasted no time incorporating it into various beauty products, promoting it as the key to everlasting youth. Radium-infused makeup, face creams, and powders were marketed as revolutionary solutions for aging skin.
Think how much dust and dirt settle on your skin, and makeup clings to your skin too and clogs pores.
Advertisements promised that these products would tighten the skin, erase wrinkles, and give users a luminous, radiant complexion. The idea of a beauty product that could make the skin glow captivated women eager to maintain a youthful appearance. Without knowing the dangers, they enthusiastically applied these radioactive powders and creams to their faces daily, believing they had discovered the ultimate skincare secret. The appeal of radium extended beyond makeup. Beauty brands introduced radium-infused soaps, lotions, and even toothpaste, claiming they could rejuvenate the skin, brighten teeth, and enhance overall health. Some high-end salons even offered radium spa treatments, where women would bathe in radium-enriched water, convinced that the radiation would energize their bodies and refresh their skin.
This same kind of dirt was made just radioactive enough to register on a Geiger counter.
At the time, people had little understanding of the dangers of radiation. Radium was often described as a miracle element, and scientists were still learning about its effects. Many believed it could cure illnesses, increase vitality, and improve circulation. Physicians even prescribed radium water as a health tonic, urging people to drink it daily for strength and vitality. The glowing effect of radium added to its allure. If it made things shine, surely it must be beneficial, or so people thought. However, as the years went by, the horrifying effects of prolonged radium exposure began to emerge. Women who used radium beauty products started suffering from mysterious ailments, skin burns, sores that wouldn't heal, and, in more severe cases, jaw deterioration, organ failure, and aggressive cancers. One of the most infamous cases of radium poisoning involved the Radium Girls, factory workers who painted watch dials with radium-based paint. These women were encouraged to lick their paintbrush tips to create finer lines, unknowingly ingesting deadly amounts of radiation. Over time, their bones became brittle, their teeth fell out, and many developed fatal illnesses. As these tragic cases gained public attention, scientists began investigating the actual effects of radium exposure. Medical studies confirmed that radiation could cause severe damage at the cellular level, leading to tissue destruction, anemia, and even fatal cancers. By the 1930s, the public could no longer ignore the dangers of radium. Governments stepped in, banning radium-based cosmetics and other consumer products. Beauty companies that once promoted radium as a miracle ingredient quickly withdrew their products, rebranding themselves to avoid scandal. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.